hope you enjoy the story. Let's begin. The kitchen timer beeped 3 times. Clay Merrick silenced it with a quick slap of his calloused hand, continuing to wash dishes that didn't need washing. "She's been skipping classes again," he said, his voice low. "3rd time this month." Marla didn't look up from her laptop. The blue light reflected off her sharp features. "Kids skip school, Clay. It's not the end of the world." Clay set the plate down harder than necessary. "She's 13, Marla. 13-year-olds don't just decide to wander off on their own. Then talk to her," Marla said, finally meeting his eyes with a vacant gaze. "You're good at that father-daughter stuff. That's not the point. Where's she even going? Who is she with? Don't you care?" Marla closed her laptop with a snap. "Of course I care. I'm just not catastrophizing a few missed algebra classes. It's more than that." Clay dried his hands, twisting the towel between his fingers. "She's pulling away. Something's wrong. Or maybe she's just being a teenager." "No, I know our daughter, even if you don't anymore." The barb landed. Marla's eyes narrowed slightly. She stood up, smoothing her blouse with practiced precision. "I have to go back to the office," she said. "It's almost 8. The Anderson case isn't going to complete itself. Don't wait up." The door closed behind her with a soft click. Clay stood alone in the kitchen, the dripping faucet marking time in the silence. Later that evening, Clay knocked on Lark's bedroom door. "Come in," she called, her voice muffled. He found his daughter cross-legged on her bed, surrounded by books. Her dark hair fell across her face as she hunched over a notebook. "Hey, kiddo," Clay said, leaning against the doorframe. "Working hard." Lark looked up, pushing her glasses back up her nose. "Just catching up on some stuff. Stuff you missed when you weren't in class." Her pencil stopped. She looked down at her notebook. "Mom told you. The school called me, actually. Want to tell me what's going on?" Lark shrugged. "Nothing's going on." "Lark, look at me." She raised her eyes reluctantly. "I can't help if I don't know what's wrong," he said. "Maybe I don't need help." But there was a quiver in her voice. Clay noticed an old radio on her nightstand, its casing cracked and dial missing. He picked it up, turning it over in his hands. "Where'd you get this?" A flicker of interest crossed Lark's face. "Garage sale down the street. The lady said it doesn't work anymore, but I thought maybe I could fix it." Clay finished, a small smile crossing his face. Lark nodded, a hint of their old connection warming the room. "Tell you what," Clay said. "Let me grab my toolkit, and we'll see what we can do with this old thing. And while we work, maybe you can tell me about these walks you've been taking instead of going to algebra." For the first time that day, Lark's face relaxed into a genuine smile. "Okay." They spent the next 2 hours taking apart the radio, Clay showing her how to test circuits and clean connections. As they worked, Lark's words came hesitantly at first, then in a steady stream. "Sometimes I just ride my bike out to the old logging road," she admitted. "There's a spot where you can see the whole town. It's quiet there. Next time, take your phone," Clay said, "and maybe tell me first, instead of your algebra teacher." Lark laughed, a sound Clay realized he hadn't heard in weeks. She connected the final wire, and Clay twisted the dial. Static crackled, then cleared into the smooth sounds of a jazz saxophone. "We did it!" Lark exclaimed. Clay watched her face light up, memorizing the moment. Later that night, Clay lay awake, listening to Marla's car pulling into the driveway at 1:37 a.m. She slipped into bed without a word, smelling of cold air and perfume she hadn't been wearing when she left. That Clay's phone rang at 3:42 p.m. the next day. He was at the machine shop, hands covered in grease. The caller ID showed Mercy General Hospital. "Mr. Merrick? This is Nurse Davison from Emergency Services. I'm calling about your daughter, Lark." The world collapsed to a pinpoint. "What happened?" "She was found unconscious near Pine Ridge Road. A passing motorist called it in. She appears to have crashed her bicycle." Clay's throat closed. "How bad?" "She sustained a head injury. The doctors are with her now. You should come right away." Clay didn't remember the drive to the hospital, only that he ran 3 red lights. He parked crookedly and ran through the doors, still wearing his work clothes. "Lark Merrick, my daughter. Where is she?" The nurse looked up. "Sir, the doctor will be with you shortly. Please have a seat." "I don't want to sit. I want to see my daughter." A door opened, and a tall man in a white coat emerged. "Mr. Merrick? I'm Dr. Tram. Please, come with me. Your daughter sustained significant trauma to the head, Dr. Tram explained, his voice soft. We've stabilized her, but she's unconscious. We've induced a coma to reduce brain swelling. A coma? Clay repeated numbly. But she'll wake up, right? Dr. Tram's pause lasted a fraction too long. We're doing everything we can. The next 48 hours will be critical. They stopped outside a room. Through the window, Clay could see monitors surrounding a small figure in the bed. Lark looked tiny beneath the hospital sheets, her face pale, a breathing tube running from her mouth to a machine. Can I go in? Of course. Clay approached the bed slowly. He reached for her hand, careful to avoid the foreline. Hey, kiddo, he whispered. Dad's here. The door opened behind him. Clay turned, expecting Dr. Tram, but instead saw a nurse he didn't recognize. I'm Shira, she said gently. I'll be looking after Lark during my shift. Can I get you anything? Clay shook his head. Have you called my wife? Yes, she's been notified. Clay nodded, turning back to Lark. He pulled a chair close to the bed and sat, still holding her hand. What exactly happened? He asked without looking up. From what I understand, she was found at the bottom of an embankment off Pine Ridge Road. Her bicycle was damaged. She wasn't wearing a helmet. The logging road, the quiet place she'd told him about just last night. Hours passed. Clay sat vigil, speaking softly to Lark. Nurses came and went. Doctors checked charts and adjusted medications. Marla arrived 5 hours after Clay. He looked up as she entered, noting her perfectly applied makeup, her crisp blazer. Her face was composed, eyes dry. I came as soon as I could get away, she said, setting her purse on a side table. She approached the bed and looked down at Lark. What have the doctors said? Clay explained what little he knew, watching Marla's face for any crack in her composure. There was none. Poor thing, she said, brushing a strand of hair from Lark's forehead with practiced tenderness. What was she doing out there alone? The question hung in the air between them, and Clay thought of their conversation in the kitchen, of Marla's dismissal of Lark's absences. A sudden coldness settled in his chest. I don't know, he lied. Days blurred together in the sterile hospital room. Clay left only when forced to. Marla came and went, citing work commitments, her appearances brief and performative. Dr. Tram's updates grew less hopeful with each visit. The latest EEG shows minimal brain activity, he explained on the fourth day, avoiding Clay's eyes. We're not seeing the improvement we'd hoped for. What does that mean? Clay demanded. Mr. Merrick, at this point, we need to consider quality of life issues. The likelihood of meaningful recovery is statistically low. She's 13, Clay said, his voice breaking. She's not a statistic. That evening, Marla arrived with takeout that Clay didn't touch. She placed a hand on his shoulder, the gesture mechanical. Dr. Tram called me today, she said. He thinks we should consider letting her go, Clay. Clay stiffened. Letting her go? She's our daughter, not a pet. I'm being realistic, Marla said, her voice maddeningly reasonable. The brain damage is severe, even if she woke up. When? Clay corrected sharply. When she wakes up. The doctors don't think that's going to happen, Marla continued. And if by some miracle it did, she wouldn't be the same. Is that what you want for her? A life of dependency and suffering. Clay turned to look at his wife, really look at her. In the harsh hospital lighting, he saw her, as if for the first time the practice concern that didn't reach her eyes, the impatient tap of her foot, the way she checked her watch. What I want is for my daughter to have every chance. And I want to know why you seem so ready to give up on her. Marla's expression hardened momentarily before smoothing back into concerned compassion. I'm not giving up. I'm facing reality. One of us has to. She left soon after, citing an early meeting. Clay returned to his post beside Lark's bed, taking her small hand in his. I'm not going anywhere, kiddo, he promised. Take all the time you need. As he shifted her hand, he felt something crinkle against his palm. Frowning, he turned her hand over gently. There, folded tightly and tucked in her curled fingers, was a small piece of paper. Clay carefully extracted it, unfolding the torn notebook paper with trembling hands. In Lark's unmistakable handwriting were 4 words. Daddy, help me. Clay stared at the note, reading it over and over. A cold certainty settled in his gut. Lark hadn't simply fallen. She'd hidden this note. Knowing she was endangered, he looked at his daughter's still face. "I will," he whispered, folding the note and slipping it into his pocket. "I promise." The next morning, Clay cornered Dr. Tram outside Lark's room. The doctor startled at Clay's approach, nearly dropping his clipboard. "Mr. Merrick," he said, adjusting his glasses. "I was just reviewing Lark's latest readings." "And?" Clay asked, blocking the doctor's path. "No significant change, I'm afraid. Have you had a chance to discuss options with your wife?" "That's what I wanted to talk to you about." Clay stepped closer, his voice low. "You seem awfully determined to convince us there's no hope." "Why is that?" Dr. Tram swallowed visibly. "I'm simply following medical protocol for hopeless cases." "She's not a hopeless case." Clay's words were clipped. "She's a 13-year-old girl who deserves every chance." "Of course. But the reality of her condition—" "The reality," Clay interrupted, "is that someone wants my daughter to die, and I'm wondering why you're so eager to help them." The doctor paled. "That's a serious accusation. Perhaps the stress is affecting your judgment." "My judgment is fine," Clay said, "but yours seems compromised." "Who's been talking to you, doctor?" "Beside my wife." Dr. Tram's expression shifted, fear replacing professional detachment. "I don't know what you're implying, but I assure you I'm only concerned with your daughter's well-being." "Then prove it," Clay said. "Run more tests. Try different treatments. Do your job. There are considerations, hospital resources, ethics committees." "I don't care about resources or committees," Clay said, his voice dangerously quiet. "I care about my daughter. And if anything happens to her because you cut corners or caved to pressure, I'll hold you personally responsible." Dr. Tram nodded jerkily. I'll see what else we can do." That night, Clay returned to the empty house to shower and change clothes. In their bedroom, he found Marla's perfume on the dresser, not the one she typically wore, but a newer, more expensive brand. Her closet contained clothes he'd never seen before. Clay's phone rang. Marla's name flashed on the screen. "Where are you?" she asked when he answered. "I stopped by the hospital, but you weren't there." "Home," he said. "Needed a shower and change of clothes." "Good. You should rest. I'll stay with Lark tonight." A week ago, he would have been grateful for the offer. Now, it sent a chill down his spine. "No need," he said casually. "I'm heading back now." "Clay, you're exhausted. Let me take a turn." "I said no." The words came out sharper than he intended. Silence stretched between them. When Marla spoke again, her voice was carefully neutral. "Fine. I have some work to catch up on anyway." Clay returned to the hospital to find Shira checking Lark's vitals. She smiled when she saw him. "Perfect timing," she said. "I was just about to change her for." Clay watched as she worked, her movements gentle and efficient. Unlike Dr. Tram, she spoke to Lark as if the girl could hear every word. "You're good with her," Clay observed. Shira smiled. "It's part of the job, but she's a special kid." "How can you tell?" "The quiet ones always are." She finished her task and turned to face him. "Plus, she's got you fighting for her. Not every patient is that lucky." Something in her tone made Clay look at her more closely. "What do you mean?" Shira glanced toward the door before answering. "Just that some doctors give up too easily, especially when there's pressure from family members who think they know best." "Has my wife been pressuring Dr. Tram?" Shira busied herself with Lark's chart. "I didn't say that. You didn't have to." Clay moved closer, lowering his voice. "Please, if you know something, I'm just a nurse, Mr. Merrick. I do my job and go home. And part of your job is protecting your patients, right?" Shira met his eyes, uncertainty warring with resolution on her face. Finally, she nodded almost imperceptibly. "I'll keep a close eye on Lark during my shifts," she promised quietly. "Day and night." "Thank you," Clay said, understanding the unspoken warning. After Shira left, Clay pulled his chair closer to Lark's bed and took her hand. "I got your note, kiddo," he whispered, "and I'm starting to understand. Don't worry. I won't let anyone hurt you again." Clay sat in Jonas Pike's cluttered living room, a beer untouched on the coffee table in front of him. Jonas paced back and forth, his large frame making the small space seem even more cramped. You're saying Marla tried to kill Lark? Jonas ran a hand through his thinning hair. Jesus, Clay. I'm saying something isn't right, Clay replied. The note, the doctor's behavior, Marla pushing to end life support. But this is Marla we're talking about. Your wife. Lark's mother. You think I don't know that? Clay's voice was sharp with exhaustion. You think I want to believe this? Jonas stopped pacing and sat heavily across from his friend. They'd known each other since they were kids. Jonas had been best man at Clay's wedding, godfather to Lark. Okay, Jonas said finally. What do you need me to do? Relief washed over Clay. The police have Lark's belongings from the accident. Her backpack, her phone. I need to see them. Jonas nodded slowly. Matt Donner still works evidence. I towed his car last month when his transmission gave out. He owes me a favor. Can you call him? Today. I'll do better than that. Jonas stood up. Get your coat. We'll go now. 2 hours later, they sat in Jonas's tow truck outside the police station, Lark's phone and backpack between them. The backpack contained typical teenage items. The phone was more interesting. Her passcode was your birthday, Jonas explained, handing the phone to Clay. Clay scrolled through recent texts and social media, finding nothing unusual. Then he opened the location history. There, he said, pointing to a pin location in the woods off Pine Ridge Road. That's where she went when she skipped school. The crash site, near it. And there's more. Clay opened the voice memo app. She was recording something. The most recent recording was dated the day of the accident. Clay pressed play, and Lark's voice filled the truck's cab. Don't know who else to tell, she was saying, her voice low and frightened. I saw Mom with him again yesterday. They didn't see me. They were arguing about money and something about Dad. Mom said he was becoming a problem. The man said they needed to be patient, that everything was in place. I don't understand what's happening, but I'm scared. I'm going to follow Mom today after school. I think she's meeting him again at. The recording cut off with a rustling sound. Then Lark's voice, higher with panic. No, Mom, don't. There was a crash, then silence. Clay and Jonas sat frozen, the implications of what they had heard settling over them like a shroud. Clay, Jonas said finally, his voice uncharacteristically gentle. What are you going to do? Clay pocketed the phone, his face hardening into resolute lines. Find out who the man is. Find out what they were planning. And make sure they both pay for what they did to my daughter. Dawn broke over the pine forests as Clay parked his truck at the trailhead. He checked the GPS coordinates from Lark's phone one more time, then began the hike. After 20 minutes, he reached a small clearing that overlooked the town below Lark's quiet place. Clay stood there for a moment. Seeing it through his daughter's eyes, he continued past the clearing, following a narrow path that wound down toward the road. Then the path ended abruptly at the edge of sharp drop-off. Below was a rocky slope leading down to the road where Lark had been found. Clay carefully made his way down, noting the broken branches and disturbed earth where Lark and her bicycle had tumbled. At the bottom, dark stains still marked the ground where his daughter's blood had soaked into the soil. Clay knelt, something glinting in the dirt catching his eye. A small silver earring, one of Lark's favorites. He pocketed it, then scanned the area more carefully. Near the base of a large pine, Clay found what the police had missed, distinct tire tracks pressed into the soft soil, partially hidden by fallen needles. He took photos with his phone, then used a stick to clear away more debris, revealing the full impression. The treads were distinctive, expensive, all-weather tires, the kind Marla had insisted on for her luxury sedan, to the top of the embankment. Where the path ended, he found more evidence. Scuff marks in the dirt, signs of a struggle, and most damning of all, a broken acrylic nail painted in the distinctive mauve shade Marla had been wearing the day before Lark's accident. He bagged the nail carefully, his hands steady despite the rage building inside him. The picture was becoming clearer. Lark had followed Marla here. There had been a confrontation. And then, Clay closed his eyes, willing away the image of his daughter falling, broken and bleeding, while Marla watched from above. His phone rang, startling him. Jonas's name flashed on the screen. I'm at the hospital, Jonas said when Clay answered. Where are you? Woods, Clay replied. Found evidence. Well, get back here. That nurse friend of yours has been trying to reach you. Says it's important. Clay's heart raced. Lark, She's stable, Jonas assured him quickly. But you need to hear what the nurse has to say. Clay found Shira in the hospital cafeteria, her scrubs rumpled from a long shift. She looked up as he approached, relief crossing her tired face. I wasn't sure you'd come, she said, her voice low. Clay slid into the seat across from her. Jonas said it was important. Shira glanced around the near-empty cafeteria before leaning forward. I saw something last night. I wasn't sure at first, but after our conversation. What did you see? Your wife came in around midnight. She thought no one was watching. Dr. Tram had sent the night nurse on break. I was doing rounds on another patient, but I saw her through the window. Clay's hands clenched on the table. What did she do? She had something in her hand, small like a vial or syringe. She was checking Lark's 4-line. Shira swallowed hard. I came in, and she jumped like she'd seen a ghost. Claimed she was just adjusting the blankets. But you don't believe her. I checked Lark's chart after she left. Her condition had deteriorated overnight, even though she'd been stable all week. The blood work showed elevated potassium levels. Shira met his eyes directly. That could happen naturally, but it can also be deliberately induced. It would cause cardiac arrest if it got high enough. The world narrowed to a point, rage and fear battling for supremacy in Clay's chest. You're saying she tried to kill our daughter? Again, I'm saying something's not right. Shira reached across the table, her hand stopping just short of his. I've reported the incident, but Dr. Tram dismissed it. Said I was overtired and imagining things. Why are you telling me this? Why risk your job? Shira's eyes softened. Because Lark deserves someone fighting for her. And because... She hesitated. Because I remember you, claimed Merrick. From high school. You helped me once when no one else would. I never forgot that. Clay studied her face, recognition slowly dawning. Shira Langley. Chemistry class. She nodded, a small smile touching her lips. Senior year. Those boys were giving me hell, and you shut them down. You didn't even know me, but you stood up anyway. The memory came back in pieces. A quiet girl being harassed by football players. Clay stepping in, a confrontation that had earned him a black eye and detention. I didn't think you'd remember, Shira said. I remember, Clay replied, the connection forming a bridge of trust between them. What do we do now? I'll keep watching Lark. Make sure she's never alone with your wife or Dr. Tram. But Clay, you need proof. Real proof, not just suspicions. I'm working on it. Clay hesitated, then decided to trust her further. I found tire tracks at the accident site. Marla's car. And I have a recording from Lark's phone talking about Marla meeting a man, planning something. A man? Who? That's what I need to find out. That night, Clay waited until Marla left for another late meeting before entering her home office. The computer asked for a password. He tried the obvious ones, none worked. He called Jonas, who arrived 19 minutes later with a small device that looked like a USB drive. It's a password cracker, he explained. Got it from a buddy who works in IT security. They waited, watching as the device cycled through password combinations. After 7 tense minutes, the screen unlocked. What now? Jonas asked. We look for anything connected to Lark, to me, to another man. Clay began navigating through files. Nothing seemed unusual until Clay opened her email and found a folder labeled simply R. Inside were hundreds of emails exchanged with someone using the address r.driggs@securitechsolutions.com. Clay opened the most recent one that we need to move forward. C is getting suspicious. The incident with L has complicated things, but there's still time to salvage the plan. Meet me tomorrow, usual place. And the reply was short, whatever it takes. I didn't sign up for this to quit halfway. Clay's hand clenched on the mouse. R. Driggs. Jonas looked over his shoulder at the screen. Who the hell is R. Driggs? Clay searched the name, finding a LinkedIn profile for Rafe Driggs, systems administrator at Mercy General Hospital, the same hospital where Lark lay unconscious. Son of a bitch, Clay muttered. He works at the hospital. Further digging revealed more emails, these with attachments, financial documents, bank statements, life insurance policies. Clay, Jonas said, pointing to one document. Is that what I think it is? Clay opened the file. It was a life insurance policy for himself, taken out 6 months ago without his knowledge. Marla was the sole beneficiary. The payout was $2 million. They were planning to kill me, Clay said, his voice hollow. But something changed. They went after Lark instead. What? Clay opened more files, scanning quickly. Here, another policy on Lark, taken out 3 months ago. $500,000. In property documents for a beach house in Mexico, purchased in Marla's name. Bank accounts I've never seen. They're planning to run, Jonas said. Once they get the insurance money. Clay continued searching, finding encrypted messages that required a separate password. Jonas tried his device again, but it couldn't break through. We need a better hacker, Jonas admitted. No time, Clay said, copying the encrypted files anyway. We have enough to start with. As they were finishing, headlights swept across the driveway. Marla was home early. Out the back, Clay ordered, shutting down the computer. Take everything we found. I'll handle Marla. Jonas slipped out the back door with their evidence as Clay moved to the living room, settling into his armchair with a book he wasn't reading. Moments later, Marla entered, stopping short when she saw him. You're up late, she observed, setting down her purse. Couldn't sleep, Clay replied, watching her over the top of his book. How was the meeting? Productive. She slipped off her coat, revealing a dress he'd never seen before. Any change with Lark? No. Dr. Tram wants to meet tomorrow to discuss options. Marla nodded, a flash of something satisfaction, crossing her face before it settled back into practice concern. We should consider what he has to say. I already know what I'm going to say, Clay replied, meeting her eyes directly. No. Marla's smile tightened. Clay, be reasonable. We can't keep her on machines forever. Why not? He asked, his voice deceptively calm. What's the rush, Marla? Got plans. She stiffened almost imperceptibly. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing, Clay said, returning to his book. Just wondering why my wife seems so eager to let our daughter die. The hospital cafeteria was nearly empty as Clay sat with Jonas and Shira, their heads bent close together over cups of bad coffee. It won't be enough, Shira said after hearing what they discovered. Suspicious emails, life insurance policies, it's all circumstantial. No prosecutor would touch it. What about the recording from Lark's phone? Jonas asked. It cuts off before anything definitive happens, Clay said. We need more. We need to catch them in the act. How? Shira asked. Clay stared into his coffee, the plan taking shape in his mind. We give them what they want. The next day, Clay met with Dr. Tram and Marla in the doctor's office. His face was haggard, his shoulders slumped in defeat. I've been thinking about what you both said, he began, his voice rough with exhaustion. About quality of life. About what Lark would want. Marla reached for his hand, a perfectly calibrated gesture of support. I know how hard this is. Clay allowed the touch, forcing himself not to pull away. I want to see the paperwork. The DNR forms. I need to understand exactly what we're agreeing to. Dr. Tram nodded, relief evident in his expression. Of course. I'll have everything drawn up. This is the right decision, Mr. Merrick. The compassionate one. When? Marla asked, her fingers tightening on Clay's hand. Tomorrow, Dr. Tram replied. We'll need both your signatures, then we'll begin reducing support gradually. It will be peaceful, I promise. Clay nodded, his eyes downcast. I'd like some time alone with her tonight. To say goodbye. Of course, Marla agreed quickly. I'll come by after work. After they left the office, Clay found Shira waiting by Lark's room. Did they buy it? She asked quietly. Hook, line, and sinker. We move tonight. Later, after the day's shift had gone, Clay carefully placed small cameras Jonas had acquired. One above Lark's bed, disguised as a smoke detector. Another near the medication stand. A third facing the door. Each one feeding directly to Clay's phone. Shira entered, carrying a small package. Inside was a microphone, hidden inside a get-well teddy bear. Clay placed it on Lark's bedside table. His phone buzzed with a message from Jonas, waiting in a van in the parking lot. Audio clear. Video feeds up. We're good to go. Shira checked Lark's vitals. I've adjusted her medication schedule, so no one will need to come in until morning. Dr. Tram thinks I've gone home. Thank you, Clay said, meaning it. For everything. Don't thank me yet. We still don't know if this will work. It will. Clay's voice was certain. Marla won't be able to resist one last visit. One last chance to make sure Lark never wakes up to tell what she knows. At 11:42 p.m., Clay's phone vibrated with a message from Jonas. Someone's coming. Clay quickly moved to the small closet in the corner of the room, leaving the door cracked just enough to see. Moments later, the room door opened and Marla entered. She moved with quiet confidence, checking the hallway before closing the door behind her. In her hand was a small case, which she set on the rolling table beside Lark's bed. Clay watched as Marla opened the case to reveal a syringe. She checked Lark's foreline, then removed the syringe from its sterile packaging. "I'm sorry it came to this," she said, her voice soft but devoid of genuine emotion. "It was supposed to be painless. You were never meant to wake up." She stroked Lark's hair, the gesture practiced and empty. "But you had to follow me that day. Had to be the perfect little detective." She prepared the syringe, tapping it to remove air bubbles. "Your father will be devastated, of course. But he'll heal with time. And with $2 million, Rafe and I can start fresh. Somewhere warm. Somewhere far from this miserable town and the memories of this unfortunate situation." She positioned the needle at the foreport. "Goodbye, Lark." Clay burst from the closet, covering the distance in 2 steps. He grabbed Marla's wrist, twisting until the syringe clattered to the floor. "Clay!" Marla gasped, shock and fear replacing the cold calculation on her face. "What are you doing here?" "Protecting my daughter," he said, his voice deadly calm. "From her own mother." Marla's expression shifted rapidly, fear morphing into indignation. "This isn't what it looks like. I was just checking her medication. With a syringe you brought from home? One that's not in her chart." Clay's grip tightened. "Don't lie to me. Not anymore." The door burst open as Jonas and Shira rushed in, followed by 2 security guards and a police officer Clay recognized as Matt Donner. "We got all," Jonas said, holding up his phone. "Video and audio. Clear as day." Marla's face drained of color as she realized she was trapped. For a brief moment, her mask slipped completely, revealing the cold calculation beneath. "You have no idea what you're doing," she hissed at Clay. "This isn't over." "Actually," Officer Donner said, stepping forward with handcuffs. "I think it is. Marla Merrick, you're under arrest for the attempted murder of Lark Merrick." Clay watched as they led Marla away, her composure cracking further with each step, threats and denials spilling from her lips. When they were gone, he returned to Lark's side, taking her hand once more. "It's done, kiddo," he whispered. "She can't hurt you anymore." The next morning, Clay sat with Detective Laura Vance in a small conference room at the police station, the evidence spread out before them. "We'll need to question this Rafe Driggs," Detective Vance said, making notes. "The hospital suspended him when we informed them of the situation, but he hasn't been arrested yet." "He's involved," Clay insisted. "He helped her plan everything." "I believe you, but we need evidence that ties him directly to the attempts on your daughter's life. The video only shows your wife acting alone." "Check his access records at the hospital," Clay suggested. "Lark's condition worsened several times during her stay. I bet he accessed her records, maybe altered her medication." Vance nodded. "Good thinking. We'll look into it. In the meantime, we need to keep your daughter safe. Marla's in custody, but Driggs is still out there." "I'm not leaving her side," Clay promised. When Clay returned to the hospital, he found Shira waiting outside Lark's room, her face pale with worry. "Someone tried to access Lark's room while you were gone," she said. "A man claiming to be from hospital administration. When I asked for ID, he left quickly." "Driggs," Clay muttered. "Did you get a good look at him? Tall, thin, dark hair, glasses. Very put together, like he spends a lot on his appearance." Clay's phone rang Jonas. "I just got home," Jonas said without preamble. "My place has been trashed. Someone went through everything." Cold fear gripped Clay's chest. "Are you okay?" "Yeah. Wasn't here when it happened." "But Clay, my laptop with the copies of the evidence is gone." "The police have the originals," Clay assured him. "But be careful. It's Driggs. He's trying to clean up Marla's mess." After hanging up, Clay made a decision. "Lark isn't safe here. Not while Driggs has access to the hospital systems. What are you thinking? Shira asked. I need to move her somewhere Driggs can't find her. Will you help me? Hours later, with Detective Vance's reluctant blessing and Dr. Tram's coerced cooperation, Clay watched as Lark was loaded into a private ambulance. The paperwork listed her destination as Portland General Hospital, but the ambulance would actually take her to Pinewood Rehabilitation Center, a small, private facility on the outskirts of town. When Clay arrived home to pack a bag, he found his house ransacked. Drawers emptied, furniture overturned, electronics smashed. On the living room wall, sprayed in red paint, was a message: "This isn't over." Clay went to the garage and retrieved the lockbox hidden behind old paint cans. Inside was his old service pistol from his brief time as a military policeman. He checked the weapon, loaded it, and tucked it into his waistband. Then he called Detective Vance. "Someone broke into my house," he told her. "Left a threat on my wall. Are you okay? Do you need patrol officers?" "No," Clay replied, his voice steady. "But you might want to put out an APB on Rafe Driggs. And warn your officers he may be armed and desperate." "Clay," Vance's voice sharpened. "Don't do anything stupid. Let us handle this." "Of course," Clay lied. "I'm just going to stay with a friend until this blows over." After hanging up, Clay called Jonas. "Driggs came to my house. Left a message. Jesus, Clay, you need to lay low. That's the plan. I'm heading to Pinewood now. But first, I need you to do something for me. Name it. Find out where Driggs lives, and whether he's there right now." The courthouse was imposing, a granite monument to justice that Clay no longer believed in. He sat stiffly in the hard wooden chair, watching as his wife's attorney whispered in her ear. Marla looked small in her orange jumpsuit, her hair pulled back severely. Judge Howard Driggs, Rafe's brother, Clay had discovered, looked down from the bench with barely concealed annoyance. The family resemblance was striking. The same thin face, the same cold eyes behind expensive glasses. "Mr. Merrick," the judge addressed Clay directly, "these are very serious accusations you've made against your wife. Accusations that, frankly, the evidence doesn't fully support." Clay's court-appointed attorney shifted uncomfortably beside him. "Your Honor, we've submitted video evidence clearly showing." "What it shows," Judge Driggs interrupted, "is a distraught mother checking on her critically injured daughter. The defense has provided expert testimony suggesting the substance in the syringe was a standard supplement, not a lethal compound. That's because the actual syringe disappeared from evidence," Clay said, unable to keep the bitterness from his voice. Judge Driggs fixed him with a cold stare. "Mr. Merrick, you will speak only when addressed directly. Now, regarding the recording from your daughter's phone, the defense argues it's been edited, and our technical experts cannot verify its authenticity without the original device, which has also, conveniently, gone missing." Clay clenched his fists under the table. Lark's phone had been in police evidence until it wasn't. Just like the syringe, just like the soil samples from the crash site, all vanished, all explained away with bureaucratic excuses. In light of these evidentiary issues, Judge Driggs continued, "And considering Mrs. Merrick's standing in the community, I'm inclined to grant bail pending further investigation." "Your Honor," Clay's attorney protested, "Mrs. Merrick is accused of attempting to murder her own daughter twice. And there's evidence suggesting she and her alleged accomplice may have been planning to harm Mr. Merrick as well." "Alleged" is the operative word, counselor. Judge Driggs shuffled papers on his bench. "Bail is set at $200,000. Mrs. Merrick will surrender her passport and remain within the county." Next case. As Marla was led away, she caught Clay's eye for the first time. The mask slipped for just a moment, and he saw what had always been their cold triumph, the look of someone who knew the system would bend to their will. Outside the courthouse, Clay stood in the rain, letting it soak through his suit jacket. Detective Vance approached, looking as frustrated as he felt. "I'm sorry," she said. "I knew Howard Driggs was a problem, but I didn't think he'd be this blatant." "She'll be out by dinner," Clay said flatly. "And Lark still isn't safe." "We're still looking for Rafe Driggs," Vance assured him. "And I've assigned an officer to Pinewood." "It won't be enough." Clay stared at the courthouse steps where Marla's attorney was giving a statement to reporters. painting Clay as an obsessive, delusional husband who couldn't accept his daughter's tragic accident. "They're going to bury this. All of it. Not if I can help it," Vance promised. "The case isn't closed, Clay. We'll find more evidence." But Clay had stopped listening. He had reached the bottom, the place where faith in systems and justice died. Now there was only one path forward, one he would walk alone. Clay sat in his truck outside Rafe Driggs's upscale apartment building, watching as lights flicked on in windows. 3 days had passed since Marla's release on bail. 3 days of careful planning. His burner phone buzzed with a text from Jonas. Just arrived at RD's place. Black SUV, tinted windows. 2 people inside. Clay watched as the vehicle Jonas described pulled into the underground parking garage. Minutes later, he spotted Marla and Rafe emerging from the elevator into the marble-floored lobby, their heads bent close together in urgent conversation. Even from a distance, Clay could read the tension in their bodies. Marla's hands moved sharply as she spoke. Rafe kept looking around, the wariness of prey, sensing a predator nearby. They argued briefly before disappearing down a hallway toward Rafe's apartment. Clay checked his watch. It was time. He dialed a number on the burner phone. After 2 rings, a nurse at Pinewood answered. "This is Dr. Westfield," Clay said, deepening his voice. "I need to speak with Nurse Langley regarding Lark Merrick." A moment later, Shira came on the line. "This is Nurse Langley. It's time," Clay said simply. "Is everything ready?" "Yes," Shira replied, maintaining her professional tone. "The patient showed significant improvement during this morning's tests. Brainwave activity is approaching normal patterns." "Excellent," Clay said, watching Rafe's building. "Please prepare for the procedure we discussed. I'll be there within the hour." After hanging up, Clay made another call, this time to the hospital where Lark had originally been treated. "Records Department," a bored voice answered. "This is Rafe Driggs, Systems Administrator," Clay said, keeping his voice clipped and authoritative, mimicking Rafe's manner from the video footage he'd studied. "I'm working remotely today and need to access patient files for an audit. My security token isn't working. I can reset it, Mr. Driggs. Just need to verify your employee ID." Clay recited the number he'd memorized from Rafe's personnel file information Jonas had acquired from a friend in HR. "All set, Mr. Driggs. You should be able to access the system now. Anything else?" "No, that's all." Clay hung up, a grim smile playing at his lips. Next, he took out a second burner phone and composed a text message to Marla's personal cell. "Emergency at Pinewood. L showing signs of consciousness. Requesting transfer back to Mercy General immediately. Need authorization." That he added Dr. Tram's name to the signature, then sent it. Through the lobby windows, he saw Marla's reaction, the sudden tension in her posture, the phone thrust toward Rafe, the panic conversation that followed. Within minutes, they were rushing back to the parking garage. Clay started his truck, keeping a careful distance as he followed their SUV across town. Instead of heading to Pinewood, however, the SUV turned toward Mercy General Hospital. Clay smiled coldly. They'd taken the bait, assuming Lark was being transferred back to where they had influence. While they rushed to intercept a patient who wasn't coming, Clay drove calmly to Pinewood. There, Shira was waiting with the false medical records they'd created, showing remarkable improvement in Lark's condition. "Is she secure?" Clay asked as Shira led him to a different room than the one Lark had occupied previously. "Room 212, under the name Sarah Jenkins," Shira confirmed. "Our most secure ward. Visitor access requires prior authorization and ID verification." Inside the new room, Lark lay as still as ever, but the machines monitoring her showed stronger vital signs. "Is she really improving?" Clay asked, hope creeping into his voice despite everything. Shira nodded, genuine optimism in her eyes. "Her latest tests are encouraging. Brain activity is increasing, and she's showing response to stimuli. It's possible she can hear us, even if she can't respond yet." Clay took his daughter's hand. "Hang in there, kiddo. We're going to finish this tonight." Back in his truck, Clay checked his third burner phone, the one he'd used to text Jonas. A new message awaited. "They're panicking." RD trying to access hospital systems from his laptop and making calls. "Perfect," Clay murmured. His plan was simple but effective. The falsified records he'd uploaded to the hospital system using Rafe's credentials showed Lark awakening, becoming responsive, and most damning of all, providing a detailed statement about the day of her accident. A statement that implicated both Marla and Rafe in attempted murder. Why now, Rafe would be frantically trying to delete those records to erase the digital trail. He would need to access the hospital's main server room to ensure nothing remained. Clay sent one more text to Jonas, Stage 2. Now, the server room at Mercy General Hospital hummed with the sound of cooling fans and processor activity. Clay and Jonas waited in the darkness of an adjacent storage room. The door cracked open just enough to see the server room entrance. "What if he doesn't come?" Jonas whispered. "He'll come," Clay replied with certainty. "He has no choice." At 11:42 p.m., the elevator at the end of the hallway dinged softly. Footsteps approached, quick and purposeful. Rafe Driggs appeared, looking over his shoulder nervously as he swiped his access card at the server room door. Clay nodded to Jonas, who moved silently to the server room door, wedging a small device against the card reader, another tool designed to prevent the door from locking when closed. They waited 3 minutes, giving Rafe time to log into the system. Then Clay opened the storage room door, and they moved. The server room was bathed in the blue glow of monitors. Rafe sat at a workstation, his back to the door, fingers flying across the keyboard as he attempted to purge the fabricated records from the system. He was so focused on his task that he didn't hear the door open, didn't notice Clay and Jonas until they were directly behind him. "Looking for something?" Clay asked. Rafe spun around, nearly falling from his chair. His face, handsome in a practiced way, drained of color when he saw Clay. This is a restricted area," he stammered, trying to regain his composure. "You can't be in here." "Funny," Clay said, his voice dangerously calm. "I was about to say the same to you." Rafe's eyes darted to the door, calculating his chances of escape. Jonas stepped sideways, blocking the exit. "Don't," Jonas advised simply. "What do you want?" Rafe asked, his voice higher than normal. "If this is about Marla, I don't know anything. She's just a friend. A friend you're planning to run away with," Clay said. "A friend you helped try to kill my daughter." "That's ridiculous. I never touched your daughter. I've never even met her. But you knew about her. You knew Marla wanted her gone. Just like you knew about the plan to get rid of me." Clay stepped closer, forcing Rafe to roll his chair back until it hit the desk. $2 million is a lot of money. Enough to start fresh in Mexico. Nice beach house you put a down payment on, by the way. Rafe's composure cracked further. "You can't prove anything." "Don't need to," Jonas said, holding up his phone. "We're recording everything, including you trying to delete hospital records right now." "What?" Clay asked, the question that had burned in him since the beginning. "She's 13 years old. What could she possibly have done to deserve this?" Something shifted in Rafe's expression, a calculation, as if weighing what to say against what Clay might already know. "She saw us," he admitted finally. "That day in the woods. She followed Marla, heard us talking about the insurance plan. We didn't know she was there until it was too late. So Marla pushed her," Clay said, the confirmation landing like a physical blow despite his suspicions. "Her own daughter. It was an accident," Rafe insisted, though his eyes betrayed the lie. "She was just trying to stop her from running off, from telling you. The girl fell. Nobody meant for it to happen." Clay's hands clenched at his sides. "And afterward, the tampering with her medication, the attempt to take her off life support, those were accidents too." Rafe swallowed hard. "Marla said it would be more humane, that the girl would never wake up anyway, would never have a normal life. Why let her suffer? Because she's my daughter," Clay said, his voice cracking slightly. "And she deserves every chance to live." Rafe's eyes darted to the computer screen, where his deletion program was still running. Clay followed his gaze. "Stop it," he ordered. "Now." "It's too late," Rafe said, a hint of his usual smugness returning. "The files are already being purged. In 5 minutes, there won't be any evidence left, just like there wasn't any evidence at the courthouse." Jonas stepped forward, gently moving Clay aside. "Lucky for us, I brought this." He held up a small device connected to a portable hard drive. "Been recording everything since you logged in. Every keystroke, every file you touched. The color drained from Rafe's face. You can't. Already did, Jonas interrupted, connecting the device to the workstation. And now we're going to have a little conversation. You're going to tell us exactly what happened from the beginning. How you met Marla. How you planned to kill Clay for the insurance money. How you helped cover up what she did to Lark. And why would I do that? Rafe asked, desperation making his voice sharp. Clay leaned down, bringing his face level with Rafe's. Because right now, Detective Vance is executing a search warrant on your apartment, where she's going to find the evidence you so carefully stole from the police station. And because if you don't cooperate, I'll make sure everyone knows what you did, including the guys at the state prison where they put child killers in general population. Fear flickered in Rafe's eyes. I want a lawyer. Sure, Clay agreed easily. After you give us your statement. Your complete statement. For a moment, it seemed Rafe might resist further. Then his shoulders slumped, the fight going out of him. What do you want to know? He asked, defeated. Everything, Clay replied. Start talking. The charity gala at the Grand Hotel was Oak Ridge's social event of the season. Marla Merrick arrived fashionably late, turning heads in a black dress that probably cost more than most people's monthly salary. Her court appearance had only enhanced her mystique. The wronged wife, the devoted mother falsely accused by an unstable husband. She'd played the part perfectly, and Oak Ridge's social circles had welcomed her back with open arms. She moved through the crowd with practiced grace, accepting condolences and supportive touches with just the right amount of dignified suffering. No one mentioned the orange jumpsuit she'd worn days earlier. No one dared ask about the daughter still lying comatose, or the husband conspicuously absent from her side. At precisely 9:30 p.m., as the band took a break and the event chairman approached the microphone for announcements, the hotel's double doors swung open. Detective Laura Vance entered, flanked by two uniformed officers. Behind them came Clay, his face set in grim lines. Conversation stuttered and died as they moved purposefully through the crowd. Marla, accepting a glass of champagne from a waiter, didn't notice until the circle around her went quiet. She turned, the practiced smile freezing on her face as she saw Clay approaching. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice carrying in the sudden silence. "You're violating the restraining order." "Actually, he's not," Detective Vance said, stepping forward. "That order was rescinded this afternoon." She pulled a document from inside her jacket. "I have something else, though. Marla Merrick, you're under arrest for the attempted murder of Lark Merrick, conspiracy to commit insurance fraud, and attempted murder of Clay Merrick." Marla's champagne glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the marble floor. "This is absurd. You already tried this, and the judge has recused himself from the case," Vance interrupted, after evidence of his interference was brought to the attention of the State Judiciary Board. Two giant screens on either side of the ballroom, intended for the charity presentation, suddenly lit up. Rafe Driggs's face appeared, pale and nervous as he sat in an interrogation room. It was Marla's idea from the start. His voice echoed through the stunned ballroom. She said her husband had a substantial life insurance policy, and no one would question if he had an accident at his workshop. We planned it for months. Then the daughter complicated things. She overheard us in the woods that day. Marla. She pushed her down the embankment. We thought she was dead, but when she survived, Marla decided it was better to finish it at the hospital. Make it look like the injuries were too severe. Marla lunged for the nearest exit, but the officers moved quickly to block her path. "This is a setup," she shouted, looking around wildly for support for the allies who had stood by her in court. But the faces that met hers were now shocked, horrified, backing away as if her guilt were contagious. "We have everything, Marla," Clay said quietly. "The insurance policies, the property in Mexico, the deleted hospital records. And we have Rafe's full confession, including how you both tampered with evidence and bribed a judge." Marla's composure shattered completely. Her face contorted with rage as she turned on Clay. "You think you've won? You're nothing without me. Nothing. I made you. I gave you a life beyond that pathetic machine shop. I gave you a daughter, and then you try to take her away," Clay replied, his voice steady. "Why? For money? For him? For freedom. Marla spat. Freedom from your small-town contentment. Your absolute refusal to be more than you are. Do you have any idea what it's like being married to a man with no ambition? No vision. Detective Vance stepped forward, handcuffs ready. Mrs. Merrick, you have the right to remain silent. I don't need to be silent, Marla hissed, her facade now completely fallen away. Rafe wouldn't have talked. Not willingly. What did you do to him, Clay? What did you promise? Nothing he didn't deserve, Clay replied. Which is exactly what you're going to get. As the officers led Marla away, her curses and accusations echoing off the ballroom walls, Clay felt no satisfaction, no triumph. Only a hollow relief that it was finally over. Shira placed a fresh vase of wildflowers on the bedside table, adjusting them so Lark would see them first when she opened her eyes. The private room at Pinewood had become a second home over the past weeks. Clay had added personal touches: Lark's favorite books, photographs, a small string of fairy lights that gave the sterile space a warm glow. Her color's better today, Shira observed, checking the monitors that had become as familiar to Clay as his own reflection. Clay nodded, not taking his eyes off his daughter's face. The doctors were cautiously optimistic. Brain activity continued to increase. She responded to stimulus, a squeeze of the hand, a change in light. Small victories that Clay collected like precious stones. I should go, Shira said reluctantly. My shift starts in 30 minutes. Clay looked up, catching her hand as she turned to leave. Thank you. For everything. I couldn't have done this without you. Shira's smile was warm, reaching her eyes in a way Clay had almost forgotten smiles could. She's a fighter. Like her dad. After Shira left, Clay settled into the chair beside Lark's bed, opening the book he'd been reading to her, a fantasy novel about a brave young girl who saved her kingdom. He wasn't sure if Lark could hear him, but the doctors encouraged normal interaction, and Clay found comfort in the ritual. The forest grew darker as Eliza ventured deeper. He read, his voice steady and calm. But she wasn't afraid. She knew the truth now, and truth was a light that no darkness could extinguish. A small movement caught his eye. Lark's fingers, curled loosely on the blanket, twitched slightly. Clay paused in his reading, holding his breath. It could be nothing. Muscle spasms happened occasionally, meaningless reflexes that the doctors warned him not to overinterpret. But then it happened again. A more deliberate movement, her index fingers stretching out, then curling back. Lark, Clay set the book aside, leaning closer. Kiddo, can you hear me? Her eyelids fluttered. The monitors beside the bed registered an increase in heart rate. That's it, Clay encouraged, hope making his voice shake. Take your time. I'm right here. Slowly, painfully slowly, Lark's eyes opened, unfocused at first, blinking against even the room's dim light. Then her gaze settled on Clay, confusion giving way to recognition. Dad! The word was barely audible, her voice rusty from disuse. Clay took her hand, tears burning behind his eyes. I'm here, kiddo. You're safe now. Lark's eyes widened as memory returned. Mom, she whispered, fear clouding her face. I know, Clay soothed. I know everything. She can't hurt you anymore. She's going to prison for a very long time. Relief washed over Lark's face, followed quickly by exhaustion. Her eyelids grew heavy again. Rest, Clay told her. I'll be right here when you wake up. She managed a small nod before drifting back to sleep, her hand still clutched in his. Clay sat back in his chair, overwhelmed by emotions he couldn't begin to name. Relief, joy, grief for what they'd lost, hope for what remained. He reached for his phone with a shaking hand, dialing Shira's number. She woke up, he said when she answered. Just for a minute, but she recognized me. She spoke. Shira's happiness bubbled through the phone. I'll tell the doctors. Oh, Clay, that's wonderful. After hanging up, Clay returned to his vigil, watching the gentle rise and fall of Lark's chest. For the first time in months, the tightness in his own chest eased slightly. The hard shell of rage and determination that had encased his heart since finding Lark's note began to crack, allowing room for something else. Not forgiveness, never that, but perhaps, someday, healing. The visiting room at the women's correctional facility was cold and impersonal. Clay sat at a metal table bolted to the floor, waiting. He debated this visit for weeks, unsure if it was necessary, unsure if he could face Marla without the protective shell of anger that had sustained him for so long. But Lark's therapist had suggested closure might help them both move forward. And so here he was, hands clasped on the table, watching the heavy door that would soon admit the woman he had once loved beyond reason. When Marla entered, flanked by a guard, Clay was struck by how small she seemed in the drab prison uniform. Her hair was pulled back severely, her face devoid of makeup. The careful polish she had always maintained was gone, leaving behind a woman Clay barely recognized. She sat across from him, her eyes wary. "I didn't think you'd come." "Neither did I," Clay admitted. An uncomfortable silence stretched between them, filled with the weight of all they'd been to each other, all they'd lost. "How is she?" Marla asked finally. "Recovering," Clay replied, offering no details. "The doctors say she'll walk again with time." Marla nodded, her expression unreadable. "And you? How are you, Clay?" The question caught him off guard. There was something in her tone, a hint of the woman he'd married, the woman he believed in. "Why did you do it?" he asked instead of answering. "Was it just the money? Or was it him?" Marla looked down at her hands, the nails now short and unpolished. "Does it matter now?" "It matters to me," she sighed, a sound that seemed to come from somewhere deep and hollow. "It wasn't just one thing. The money, yes. Rafe, to some extent. But mostly," she looked up, meeting his eyes directly. "I was suffocating, Clay. In that house, in that town, in that life. I wanted more, deserved more. And Lark, what did she deserve?" Marla flinched slightly. "I never meant to hurt her that badly. She wasn't supposed to be there that day. She wasn't supposed to hear us.